This is a quick tutorial on how to make an inexpensive yet shiny crown that you could take to a rally. These are the things that you definitely need: brown paper bag, aluminum foil, scissors, pencil, tape, or stapler. It could be one or the other or both. If you have it, a Sharpie. If you also have it, some colored Sharpies to use for jewels. And if you have it, a really big yellow Sharpie if you want to color the silver aluminum foil to a yellow color. This will probably work. This is a highlighter. We'll find out. But you don't need to color it all for it to look like a crown. Your first step is to cut the bottom off of the paper bag. If you decide you need more stiffening in your crown than what the regular part of the paper bag will do, you can save this and put it in as if it were pieces of wood or something to reinforce the stiffness of the crown. But it's not necessary. Okay, so now you have your paper bag. There will be a seam on the paper bag. This one is in the middle of one of the big sides. Sometimes it's right at the edge. If you want to go that far, you could use this as the center front right over your nose of the crown. This can make a second crown. So, this is obviously much larger than most people's heads. But once you have that piece ready, you can cut it on the back and think of it like one strip of paper. And this is where that seam is that I showed you. So what you need to do now is decide what shape you want the crown to be. A simple zigzag will work really well. So I advise one big zigzag point and then a bunch of smaller zigzag points. And at this point, you don't have to worry about matching it to your head. It's okay if you end up overlapping. This is going to be on the inside of the crown. This brown paper will get wrapped with the tin foil, the aluminum foil. Then cut out this shape. You can use the straightness of the scissors to make up for areas where your drawing is too wiggly. This flat area at the end will be where the band overlaps in the back of your head. And I suspect that this version of the crown is too large for even my large head. So at this point, pick it up, put it around your head, and figure out how far around it's actually going to go. Okay, In my case, it's going to go to this point. Mark it on both sides of where you pinched it. So, there's that point, right underneath the last zigzag point there. And this one is miraculously almost the same location. So I'm not going to need this extra space very much. But I advise to you, once you get to this point and you line the marks back up, that even though you could cut it off right here, I advise you give it an inch or two more, just to have overlap ability, because it's a lot easier to take it away later than to add on extra later. Okay. So there's where it's going to match if this isn't any thicker, but it's going to get thicker because I'm going to put the aluminum foil on it. And we have some extra. Now you'll notice this front part does not match up quite straight because I folded it and we have this extra little flange. So open it up and just cut off the top. Now you probably will do just fine with one thickness of brown paper. But if you don't think that'll be thick enough, you could make two, exactly the same shape, layer them together. Or you can grab the offcut and put that on there, just like this. So there's that point. At this point, tape will be a little easier because it won't be stiff where it joins. If you use the staple, you might want to end up having the paper be curvy through that section where the staple is, and then it won't look quite as nice. So here's the other side of what I cut off. Just taping it down so it doesn't go anywhere. Okay. That's the back side. This is the front side. Here's the extra tall spike. This does not need to be sophisticated. Now, tin foil, aluminum foil, obviously. You can choose the shiny side, or you can choose the slightly dull side. In my opinion, the slightly dull side will actually look a little bit better. I could be wrong, but I'm going to make this one with the dull side on the outside. Now, start at one end. There's going to be some overlap over here, and that's okay. If you're really concerned about seams, though, instead of doing it like this, you can get the longest dimension of your aluminum foil by going on the diagonal. Okay. Now, whichever direction you're going, if you press with your fingers, you can outline on the tin foil where the edges of your paper are. And I'm going to highlight that with the Sharpie so that you can see it, but this, you don't have to do this part. I'm just doing this for the video. Okay, so that's where the edges are for this one. Now once you have this first fold, whether it's on the straight or on the 45 degree like this, once you've got this first one folded around your inside paper, tape it down, because it doesn't need to go anywhere after this. So at this point, you need to think of which side of this is going to be your outward facing side. In my case, It's the side that's touching the table. So I am going to cut away the tin foil on this side. You could also fold it back. Anything that gets it out of the way. So that you don't have to worry about it. If you're not sure about it flapping around, you can use more tape. So that just goes over to the brown paper side. Now, you're going to want to fold this smoothly over so that the peaks look very smooth from the outside. So what I'm going to do is cut a folding allowance or a seam allowance around my inside thing. It doesn't have to be precise. That's the important thing to recognize here. This is just a tinfoil crown. And you can always make another one if you think you mess up. But you don't have to be precise with this, and it will be fun even if you make a mess. See, I just tore that because I wasn't thinking, but that's okay. So I've cut my sort of seam allowance for the tin foil. Now I'm going to use the tape on the place that I tore. This isn't going to show because the part that's going to show is on the other side of the brown paper here. But that's going to make it easier for me. And I'm going to tape a little bit near the peaks because that'll make it easier when I'm folding the tin foil over, if it's not sliding around too much. Okay. Now you see I've got this seam allowance effect. This is about 1 inch or 2 centimeters, whichever system you use. It'll be a little easier if you cut a slight snip into the V sections. That'll make it easier to fold smoothly. And then just start folding it over your brown paper as smoothly as you can. Now you're going to have extra here at the top. So don't worry about that yet. Just fold smoothly. And then when you get to the top, fold this top little extra bit in whichever smooth way you can come up with. You can make it stand up straight like this. You can see it standing up straight. And then do a couple little folds so that it will hide behind that front peak of your crown. And then you can tape it down so it doesn't go anywhere. See, here's the front peak of your crown, nice and smooth. Remember that you are going to be the most critical viewer of your crown of anybody. So it's only you that you have to please, because everybody else will say, hey, that's a cool crown. You can also do the folding maneuver before you fold over the second side. It's just like wrapping a package. You've probably done something like this when wrapping a package. And then tape it down. And do that all the way around. See, here's my extra fold, just like wrapping a package. Probably a little difficult to see because it's so shiny. And fold it over again. Tape the back side down. Now see, here's a little bit that didn't get folded because it tore. That doesn't matter. Fold it some way, doesn't matter which way, and tape it down. So you can see we've got a bit of brown paper showing here, but this is on the back. Nobody will care. The main thing is to tape it down so it doesn't tear if something catches on it, like your hair or barrettes or a hat, or a leaf that falls on your head during the day. So this one I forgot to slip, but you can just do it with your fingers if it's small, just like wrapping a package on the back. More tape. And more tape here. And this little bit. Now when we get all of this part of the paper folded, all of the tin foil folded down, then we will add more tin foil to cover up the rest of the brown paper that is showing on the ends. Okay, so everything is stuck down. Here's what it looks like on the front. Not bad, hey? So we just need to cover these two other ends with aluminum foil. Now you might have scraps from your initial cutting, or you can use fresh, obviously. Smooth it out a little bit. Remember to turn it to match. If you've got the slightly dull side being the fancy side, make sure that you have added on more from the slightly dull side. I'm going to take the easy way out, which is matching this point to my cardboard point, so I don't have to do too much in the way of matching shenanigans. Tape the join down so it doesn't go wandering off. Flip it over, fold it around, just like before. Now, a good part of this much probably, is going to be an overlap with the other side once I close it up. But you might as well just do it nicely anyway, just in case you're wrong about that, or just to get it done so you don't have to worry. There's that folding like on a package. Now down here, where the flat band starts, you need to make one of those little snips so that you can fold the tin foil around properly. And remember to stick it down everywhere. Okay, so it is not excessively beautiful, but it will do just fine. Here's my other piece. And this one I will also stick on so that I don't have to cut too much around the peak. There's no reason not to waste tin foil though. You can be wild with it. So this is stuck on where it needs to go. Flip it over. Rip off the excess. And fold it around. So, and then up here, and you need that little snip so it will go fold up closely. Little finger snip. Fold that over, fold this one over. I'm running out of tape, so I'm going to use partial pieces of tape, but there's no reason for you to do that when you're doing yours. Okay, so everything's stuck down here. This is the back side, looks kind of rough, of course, but the front side looks very good. So, the next thing you do, very simple. You can stop here after turning it in a circle and stapling or taping it to fit your head. Or you can make designs. Now I'm going to try and make jewel designs on mine. The main thing to remember with making jewel designs with colored markers is if you're going to use a yellow or an other light color, put that down first. Don't make the black circle if you're going to outline it first and then fill it in with yellow, because that will just smear the black all over the yellow area. So yellow doesn't show up really all that well. So instead of putting like a big yellow jewel here, I'm going to have yellow jewels as sort of a secondary image. So like down here, and maybe one down here. If you can't draw a circle to a way that you like, get a quarter and outline it around a quarter or some other coin. And these are off center, but that's all right. Okay, so then fill in your yellow with your Sharpie. Going in two directions will make it look more even and might make it look like it's faceted. So you can experiment with that. Don't press too hard, but a little bit of pressure will help it look dimensional, help it look 3D, which is part of the illusion you're going for here. Now you can see with the yellow, it does look kind of goldish. You could cover the entire surface of the aluminum foil with yellow marker or yellow highlighter to make it look like it's gold. I don't know what the yellow highlighter will look like, so I'm going to do it as a test area over here. It's smoother than the Sharpie because it's got the chisel tip instead. Now, if you're going to do this, put a sheet of newspaper or something underneath your tinfoil shape before you start marking, or else you'll get marker all over your table. Okay, so there are those jewels. A really bright color that shows up well against a silvery white is either red or green. So that's what my jewel up here is going to be. It's going to be red. And I've decided to make it this diamond shape because it kind of echoes the point. And then fill it in just like the yellow in at least two directions. And it will look kind of like it's faceted like a real jewel. Okay. So here is another jewel. Here is another jewel. Now, like I said, you don't have to put jewels on this. Or you could also put jewels by cutting up colors from construction paper or from an advertising circular that you got in the mail that you usually throw away. Anything like that will work really well. You could also use candy wrappers that are different colors to be this. You know, just cut them out in the shape you want, put them on. Okay, I've got blue and green also, so I'm going to make some smaller jewels just to be fancy. And the little green guys. Let's see, where will we put the green guys? We'll put a green guy up here. And a green guy up here. A green guy up there. Okay. Now, if you want to get even fancier with this idea, and you do not have to, you can outline them with a black Sharpie to make it look more like a jewelry setting. So this is the thing you do after you do the colored marking, and especially after you do any light colored markers like this yellow, because otherwise it will smear if you try and color over the black or a darker color with a lighter color. It will just get all smeary. It'll redissolve the carrier, which is usually alcohol for these markers, and it'll just go everywhere. Now, probably, even if it's raining, if the Sharpie has fully dried, you will not have a problem. However, you might. I haven't tried it. So if you're at all concerned, you could then cover your crown with plastic wrap if you want. Just make sure to do it evenly and smoothly. Okay, so there are settings for the big yellow jewels. And you can do the same on the other jewels. I'm not going to bother doing the scallops around these other ones. But defining them a little bit more with the black will help with the appearance. Okay. So, There we have our flat version of the crown. And obviously you can decorate as much of this as you want. So now you've got that all set, you take your crown, you fold it over, and you put it on your head and figure out where you're going to need to fasten it. So that's what I'm doing off camera. Make sure you have the center peak right above your eyes and your nose. If you're going to wear a hat, if it's cold, put the hat on first and then put the crown on so that you have the right sizing. Okay, so here's where mine is, and mine is conveniently pretty much exactly right on those two spikes. So I'm going to fold it back this way to hide my experimental color thing. I'm going to fold this right over and then either tape or staple it closed. Now, staple it so that the prongs of the staple are facing away from your head. Not because it's going to hurt you, but because those prongs will catch on your hair. And that will be annoying. There we go. So there is the crown. If you do staple it the wrong way, just put a piece of tape over the prongs on the inside. So here's the crown. You can smooth it out a little by encouraging it to bend on the sections underneath the zigzags, because otherwise it will stay pretty much flat through that, but you want it to bend. Although when you put it on your head, it'll end up bending anyway. So there is a crown. Fairly inexpensive, that you can wear to any place that you want to talk about kings and whether we should have any of them in the US. Because the difference between kings and presidents are that the presidents obey our Constitution. And I hope you enjoyed that.